Hey guys, back. As promised, here's the little short story. I'm just going to jump right in. It's called Of Christmas and Scars, a Sisters of Darkness finale. Christmas was blood and fire for 5-year-old Amberlyn Winters. The wind howled and beat at the windows. Snow drifted in strong currents, swirling white against the pitch-black backdrop of night. The smell of fresh cookies baking wafted throughout the entire house, mingling with apple pie maple spice, and seeped into the house's woodwork, into the deepest crevice of Amberlyn's mind for later torment. Christmas tree lights flashed in strange patterns, red, green, blue, clear, and carols played while Amberlyn and her 2 younger sisters played dolls on the floor, their Dalmatian dog beside them. Their father, a tall man with warm cerulean eyes, sat in an overstuffed armchair by the fireplace reading Charles Dickens. "When's Mommy getting home?" Amberlyn asked as she brushed her doll's hair. "Not too much longer, baby. They're making her work longer tonight." "Oh." Amberlyn frowned. She didn't understand why, but something felt wrong. It was that wrongness that left her tense and wishing her mother was already home. That same wrongness left her alert and aware as their dog rose up, his head lowered, and glared at the front door. "Daddy, something's wrong with Rex." Fear slithered its way into Amberlyn's small heart as she eyed Rex. A low growl started deep within his throat, reverberating outward. The twins looked at Rex and widened their eyes at the sight of him. Their father stood, saying, "Get back, girls." "Daddy." "Amberlyn, take your sisters and get back now." As they hurried back, Rex edged forward, now snarling and snapping, showing sharp teeth and pink gums. Amberlyn shivered, and her sisters whimpered, watching with wide eyes as their father retrieved his rifle from above the mantel and crept closer to the door, slowly opening it. Deep Obsidian stared back, and a cold breeze swept in to ruffle their father's thinning hair. He took a step outside, holding the gun at the ready as he looked around. Amberlyn and the younger 2 watched him. After several nerve-wracking seconds, their father looked back over his shoulder, frowning. It was too tense, the ambiance too dark. Their father shrugged, saying, "I don't see anything." Must just be clawed hands appeared from the black abyss, pulling him out into the darkness. The children screamed. A glabrous white head appeared, red eyes refulgent in the darkness of night. A mouthful of razor-sharp teeth, with 2 longer fangs, flashed bright, stained red in the living room light. The thin hand, flesh stretched tight over the bone, clutched their father's throat. Blood welled up and seeped out of where the creature's claws cut into his jugular. The girls screamed. Amberlyn ran for the linen closet. A coward, only able to imagine what was happening as she hid her face in her knees. Rex snarled and attacked, the first to go. He squealed in pain, the sound stabbing Amberlyn's heart as tears seared her eyes. Silence followed. She crept out from her hiding place of clean linen, the smell too pure in such chaos, and peered through the cracks in the door. Rex lay in ragged parts, tangled in entrails, bleeding over the plush white carpet, staining it dark crimson, like the white of his fur was now colored. Amberlyn clapped her mouth closed against the screen, tears spilling from her eyes. Be brave, stay silent, don't let them find you." The nether monster shoved her father into the living room. The twins screamed and kicked when the hoofed creatures grabbed them. A towering figure followed slowly, hairless, with snow-white skin that faded into the darkest of blacks at his mouth. A long, lipless line that stretched from ear to ear. Deep, never-ending black sockets were the creature's eyes, and horns spurted from each heel like a demonic spur. More sprouted from the shoulders. Heavy genitalia hung between his legs, proving his sex. He stared around the room, devoid of any human emotion. The worst of the nether creatures, a devoratum, stealer of souls. A gunshot echoed, then another. Amberlyn's father bled from the knees, groaning and crying in pain. The hoofed nether monster ripped Daddy's leg off, tendons and ligaments dangling as the beast laughed at the stub he held. More blood, more screaming. Amberlyn cried, hand over her mouth, to keep quiet, to keep the rancid vomit burning her throat at bay, trying to be strong, too afraid to try to help, too afraid to do anything. Powerless. The door to the linen closet ripped open. Amberlyn screamed, lashing out as the Devortum grabbed and threw her into the middle of the living room. Her father screamed, trying to reach her. Another snarled and lifted him up, drove railroad stakes through his hands and nailed him to the wall, surrounded by all the family portraits. A lariat went around his throat and neck, sinking into his flesh, choking but not snapping. His neck. "Daddy," Amberlyn cried. The Devortum crouched down beside her, and as he stroked her hair, he cooed, "Shh, now, we have something special in mind for you, love." A line that would resonate through Amberlyn's mind forever as the torture continued. "Do you like games, little one?" the Devortum asked. Amberlyn didn't answer. Couldn't. The sight of her crying sisters and bleeding father was all she was aware of. "Let's play a game. Your life and soul, or theirs?" Amberlyn furrowed her brow, shook her head. "What?" The Devortum smiled, not unkindly, and continued combing his fingers through her hair, sending nauseating chills through Amberlyn. "Do you want to die, little girl?" Terrified, Amberlyn shook her head. "But please, let us go." "Them or you. Choose." She could only look between her family and the nether demon. He ran a claw over her throat, pressing just enough to sting. "Do you want to die, cease to exist, forever surrounded by a suffocating darkness and eternal pain?" Amberlyn widened her eyes. Her throat felt tight and her heart raced as she shook her head. "No, no, please, I don't want to die." A slow smile tugged on the Devortum's lips, and he turned to his soul-stealing brood. "She doesn't want to die, boys." He opened his mouth. His jaw cracked and elongated, splitting into 4 mandibles to leach onto her face and steal her soul. Except it wasn't her soul he stole. Amberlyn screamed and watched as the Devortum fed. Blood zigzagged in rivulets down her father and sister's cheeks, chasing down their neck. Then her family went silent, their skin grayed, their eyes dimmed, but they still breathed. They ripped her family apart, then, feeding on their flesh and drinking their life source like a fine wine. When they were done, the leader came to Amberlyn. She shook and trembled, a river of tears burning her face. The Devortum tipped her chin up. "Something to remember us by." With the tip of his black talon, the soul thief carved deep grooves from the corner of her lips back to her ears. She screamed as a fiery pain scorched through her, felt her skin rip more. Pain was all she felt as smoke burned her lungs and flames engulfed the house, all while the radio played, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." 11 years later, Amberlyn was alone. Her mother worked the 3rd shift, her pathetic stepfather partied at some bar, and her little sister slept soundly upstairs. Amberlyn stared at the flashing Christmas lights, and she remembered. She could smell it all like she was 5 years old again and watching the horror, as if blood pooled over and stained the carpet, as if her family's flesh burned mere feet from her all over again. Like the moment it happened all those years ago, pain raced fire through the scars, marring her thin face. Fingers trembling, she touched the Glasgow grin and shuddered, closed her eyes and felt the single tear burn down her cheek. The scars were as raw red today as they were when the demon made them, a forever reminder. Her burden, her punishment for not protecting them. But not anymore. Amberlyn stiffened back her shoulders, pushing away the weakness, fighting to wither her away. A battle she knew she could win. She'd won it for 11 years now, and she wasn't about to lose the fight now. Because upstairs, sleeping peacefully, was a little girl who needed her. No matter what she had to do, what monster she herself had to become. She would protect her mother, her little sister, and everyone she loved from the horrors. Whether it was from her stepfather's drunken rages, or something more sinister, something that stole souls and murdered innocents on Christmas. She would never let her mother or little sister fall prey. She owed it to those she hadn't protected, the ones she had failed all those years ago. So deep in her musing, she almost didn't hear the knock at the front door. Almost. Memory left her stiffening, and her breath caught. Whoever was at the door knocked again, then called out, "Princess?" The tension filling her eased. She went and opened the door, smiling as she stared at the tall boy on the other side. The tall, muscular boy who towered over her 4'10". The boy with the warm hazel eyes, shaggy chestnut hair, superhero t-shirt, and large aviator eyeglasses. Michael Hollis, her best friend, her first and only love, and the bringer of a fuzzy black German Shepherd puppy. Or sable German Shepherd puppy. As she gushed over the puppy, Micah shrugged and pushed his hand through his hair, letting a smirk distract from the red blossoming over his cheeks. Just stop it. Was going to wait till a decent hour, but figured you could use him tonight. As he pushed her nearly black hair from her face, the weight of his words reached her. She stared up at him and smiled. Entwining her fingers through his, she pulled him inside and closed the door. Standing on tiptoes, she brushed her lips over his, gentle and warm, spreading tingles from her lips through her entire body. The way he shuddered and pulled her closer, lingering and nuzzling her cheek, let her know he felt it too. When she pulled away, she whispered, "I think we both could use him right now." Because Amberlyn wasn't the only one with scars, and the pain that darkened his eyes, the way he kissed her palm and held her close, only confirmed it. He had his own ghost to battle, but she'd be damned if she didn't try to ease his war. Ease his like he eased hers. Just having his presence here, just having his presence there, calmed the rage inside her and chased all the darkness away. When she smiled, it sparkled in her eyes, and she'd make sure she made his eyes sparkle too. He might have been a troublemaking lowlife, as his uncle liked to say, but he was her troublemaking lowlife. She would protect him just as fiercely as she protected her family, from the outside foes and the ones raging inside him. So with a playful nudge, she said, "Besides, Dante's only a very cute bonus right now." Micah chuckled and played with a lock of her hair. "Dante, huh? Like from the book?" "Yep." "And I thought you were a science geek, not a literature nerd." Amberlyn snorted, giggling as the puppy licked and nipped at her nose. "You'd like me either way." "Correction, Princess," he said, and gently cupped her face in hands that were callous but safe. "I love you." As his lips touched hers, warmth radiated through her, setting her nerve endings on fire. As the kiss deepened, their tension melted. Their bodies relaxed against one another, and as they held each other close, whispering and giggling nonsense to one another, for just a moment they found their peace. And that is the end of that one. So, sorry for the interruptions. I kept hearing the dogs get into stuff. But yeah, that is how Amberlyn got her lovely scars. And your first introduction to the next character I'm hoping to show in doll form, Micah. He's a complicated character, but hopefully people will love him. As I was reading it, I noticed things I needed to change. The writer in me kept kicking in. "What are you doing?" And I'm not sure if you noticed, the dog's name in that story is the same as the new puppy of mine. You can blame my little girl for that. She knew the name of the dog I was writing about, because she asked me about my writing sometimes, and she was like, "Do you have any dogs in it?" So I told her, and so she remembered, and that's what our little puppy's name is. Let me see if I can get you a little... I don't know if you can see them. I can't really see anything. Anyway. But there's Amberlyn. And I hope you somewhat enjoyed that little short story. I'll have more as I write them. I've just been busy working on these art dolls. So yeah, there she is. Thank you again. Bye everyone.